I'm never gonna get out of this town, am I, Gory? You can do anything you want, man. Yeah. Sure.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the most tragic, unsettling, and/or horrible events in the history of film.
We must find a way to look after one another as if we were one single tribe.
Bruce Lee's sudden death. As an elite martial artist, Bruce Lee became a star by the 1970s. His films, such as Enter the Dragon, are still considered classics in the action genre. He had not yet completed Game of Death when he unexpectedly died. Suffering from a cerebral edema, the actor passed away at the age of 32. The final version of the movie was released in 1978. At such a young age, Lee had already achieved so much as an international figure. His reputation only grew through the decades and made him a major influence in martial arts.
Don't think. Feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon.
Filming a murder at Altamont. Gimme Shelter. When documentary filmmakers followed the Rolling Stones to the Altamont Free Concert, they never would have expected this result. Their cameras captured the band's performance and a hostile environment. In the crowd, a fight led to a stabbing.
Splitting, you know, if those cats cut, if you people, we're splitting, man, if those cats don't stop beating everybody up inside.
Meredith Hunter drew his gun and was attacked by a Hell's Angel member. The crime was captured on film, becoming an integral part of the documentary Gimme Shelter. The Maisleys brothers and their co-director Charlotte Swearin shined a light on a tragic episode in rock history, showing the violent side of the 1960s. This event was forever immortalized by a cinematic tour de force. Paul Walker's car accident.
New details this morning on the deaths of Fast and Furious star Paul Walker and his friend, killed in a fiery car accident over the weekend.
Known for a wide range of roles, Paul Walker is best remembered for the Fast franchise. The performer wasn't finished filming Furious 7 when he and his friend, Roger Rodas, went driving. While traveling at high speeds, the two died after a serious crash. Walker had starred in 6 movies in the action series, but filmmakers still decided to finish the 7th entry.
What you doing?
I owe you a 10-second car.
His brothers helped shoot additional scenes, with some visual tricks employed to make it all seem like the original star.
Hey, thought you could leave without saying goodbye.
The final result was a moving tribute to the man's legacy and work as Brian O'Connor. Roy Kinnear falls off a horse, the return of the Musketeers.
Enchanting.
Roy Kinnear might not be a household name, but his filmography has more than a few recognizable projects. Many viewers will remember him as Veruca Salt's father in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Veruca, sweetheart, I'm not a magician. Give me time.
I want it now. What's the matter with those twats down there?
For 5 days now, the entire flipping factory's been on the job. They haven't shelled a peanut in there since Monday. They've been shelling flaming chocolate bars from dawn to dusk.
He also starred in Richard Lester's film series based on the Three Musketeers. While making The Return of the Musketeers, Kinnear fell off a horse while filming in Spain.
Yeah, it's an ambush.
He broke his pelvis and later died of a heart attack. The tragic event was a sad end to his career, with that movie being released in 1989. Following a lawsuit, the event raised concerns about on-set safety and medical negligence.
The furnace! Should be sizzled like a sausage.
Well, not necessarily. She could be stuck just inside the tube.
Inside the... Hold on! Veruca! Sweetheart! Daddy's coming!
River Phoenix's overdose.
You're gonna be a great writer someday, Gordy. You might even write about us guys if you ever get hard up for material.
Standing out amongst other child actors, River Phoenix showed promise as a talented performer. His works as a kid and a young adult range from Stand By Me to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The Oscar-nominated actor also ventured into dynamic leading roles, such as My Own Private Idaho.
Do you know anything about bikes?
Yeah, I've turned over a few.
Unfortunately for him, he didn't live long enough to showcase all of his abilities. Outside the Viper Room in Los Angeles, Phoenix overdosed and was later pronounced dead at the hospital. He had already filmed scenes for Dark Blood, with the project finally finished in 2012. His stellar performances, presence, and activism will never be forgotten.
I wanted to explain why I can't talk about a lot of things. Like college. I can't go to college. I can't leave them. And I wanted to tell you why I couldn't be with you.
Carol Lombard's plane crash.
I never brought you here if I thought they were going to humiliate you. I'm terribly grateful. This is the first time I've ever beaten Cornelia at anything, and you helped me do it.
This actress was a fixture of 1930s and early 1940s film. Her appearances in comedies made her one of the more sought-after performers of the Hollywood studio system. When World War II broke out, Carol Lombard helped out by promoting war bonds. On a flight home from one of these events, Lombard died in a plane crash. She left behind an impressive catalog of movies that included To Be or Not to Be.
To be or not to be? You no doubt know its deeper meaning.
Yes, I have a vague idea.
Included on the American Film Institute's list of best actresses, the performer remains an important part of cinema history. Her tragic death underscores how much she achieved by her early 30s.
He wants to play Hamlet.
After all, we are in the country of William Shakespeare.
He wants to play Hamlet.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's death. In the 1990s, Philip Seymour Hoffman became an indispensable actor. His supporting roles enhanced everything from blockbusters to dramas. He then earned leading parts in the 2000s, like his Oscar-winning turn in Capote.
It's Truman for William Shawn, please. Yeah, have you read the article about the killings in Kansas in the front section of the New York Times? I think that's what I want to write about.
The performer also dealt with substance use disorder, with his death in 2014 resulting from an overdose. During this time, he had yet to finish filming scenes for the final Hunger Games movie.
He needs time. But, we're trying something new today.
His passing deprived audiences of more brilliant work. Hoffman's performances will be remembered forever, giving audiences vulnerable and intense characters. He's still considered a generational talent that only would have gotten better.
If we are not helping him, then it is we who have failed him. Is it not?
Roman Polanski's scandal.
I think it's likely that he's going to spend time in prison. He won't get the maximum that he might have gotten 30 years ago, but I think he will get a significant prison time.
Few directors are as infamous as Roman Polanski. After making revered projects and losing his wife to tragedy, the filmmaker ended the 1970s as a fugitive. He invited underage Samantha Gailey to be photographed and then assaulted her. With his future uncertain, Polanski fled US authorities and eventually settled in Europe. He kept making movies while avoiding extradition back to America. Winning an Oscar for directing The Pianist, the man was still defended as an artist despite his criminal behavior. All these decades later, the director's personal life still fuels Hollywood's reputation for these kinds of crimes.
Get it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Chadwick Boseman's hidden cancer diagnosis. In the 2010s, Chadwick Boseman became a leading man in Hollywood. He played a number of historical figures in biopics ranging from 42 to Get On Up. The performer then took on his most iconic role as T'Challa in Black Panther and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Little did anyone know that he was harboring a serious cancer diagnosis. While filming several projects, the actor was dealing with his health in private. This made his death in 2020 seem even more devastating. His final film role in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom earned him a posthumous Golden Globe and an Oscar nomination.
All right, I'm gonna give your guy a chance. I'm gonna give your guy a chance. I'm gonna give him a chance to say it. Up, stay out of this, Toledo. There ain't no way to solve this. Nice up, Levy. I'm talking to Cutler's God. You hear me? Cutler's God. I'm calling Cutler's God.
Boseman's legacy will carry on, with devoted fans celebrating his versatile work.
We'll go down forever.
Robin Williams takes his life.
Good morning, Vietnam! Hey, this is not a test. This is rock and roll.
Among the most beloved comedians ever, Robin Williams gave millions of people a reason to smile. Even though he'd been open about his personal struggles, the star had an energetic persona in public.
Son of a bitch. He stole my life.
In a sad turn of events, Williams died after taking his own life in 2014. He was later found to have had Lewy body dementia. This affected his physical and mental health, but it went undiagnosed before his death. An outpouring of tributes followed from the entertainment industry and fans everywhere. For his work in multiple mediums, the performer still holds a place in many people's hearts.
Thank you, boys. Thank you.
Marilyn Monroe's death. Something's Gotta Give. Marilyn Monroe still ranks among the most famous stars in Hollywood history, reaching the height of her fame in the mid to late 50s with a bunch of classic comedies. She entered the 1960s with her fair share of success and a slew of personal obstacles, taking part in a proposed project named Something's Gotta Give.
You know, far away in the South Sea Islands, when a man hurts himself and he doesn't want people to see, you know what he does?
What?
He has somebody else cry for him.
How does that help?
You'd be surprised.
At this point in her career, Monroe was known for forgetting lines and missing workdays. She was then fired and reluctantly rehired in a troubled production schedule.
The studio agreed to pay her more than twice her original salary to finish the film.
Overdosing in 1962, the actor's hectic life came to a tragic end and entered into entertainment legend. Many still argue that she was taken advantage of during her life, as well as in death. Set accidents. The Exorcist. If you were working on The Exorcist back in the early 1970s, you might have thought there was much more than a fictional haunting happening. A series of accidents and strange occurrences plagued the production. Actor Linda Blair was hooked up to a rig for a scene where her character gets possessed, thrashing her around and injuring her back. This doesn't even include bizarre events, such as a set catching fire, mysterious warnings from a priest, and an additional injury to star Ellen Burstyn. William Friedkin's terrifying vision is considered an absolute classic to this day, regardless of the behind-the-scenes tales. 9 years later, the film Poltergeist would experience similarly spooky stories that led some to believe horror movie sets were cursed. Nazi propaganda. Triumph of the Will. A few decades into its creation, filmmaking became a powerful and dangerous tool for propaganda purposes. This was especially true for Nazis in the 1930s. Hitler rose to power and needed help from a filmmaker to get his hateful message across. Enter Leni Riefenstahl, the director that produced documentaries for the Third Reich and propped them up as a supposedly superior force. The work Olympia showcased the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin, while her most infamous project was Triumph of the Will. It introduced rallies and speeches that espoused the false prosperity of a fascist takeover. Riefenstahl was commended for her technical abilities, but condemned for her association with and cinematic glorification of the Nazis.
Also einmal war ich nie stolz, auch heute nicht, früher nicht. Stolz worauf? Für diese Schinderei, die ich da hatte, für diese Arbeit. Das war entsetzlich, ich bin fast draufgegangen, gesundheitlich beim Schneiden dieses Films. Und was habe ich davon gehabt?
John Belushi's death. John Belushi was one of the premier stars from the first series of Saturday Night Live. Starring in the late 1970s, the actor broke into films such as Animal House.
I'm a zit. Get it?
He was as famous for his comedy styles in projects like The Blues Brothers as he was for his hard partying habits. Sadly, Belushi's vices eventually caught up with him.
Comic actor John Belushi died today at a rented hotel bungalow in the Hollywood Hills.
He suffered a fatal overdose in 1982. Hollywood is no stranger to these kinds of sudden deaths, but this one in particular was a wake-up call for many of the performer's friends, colleagues, and fans. He left a significant hole in the future of comedy and continues to inspire a generation of imitators.
Let's do it.
Hattie McDaniel at the Academy Awards. Gone with the Wind. Hattie McDaniel was a trailblazing black artist during the golden age of Hollywood.
Mammy, darling. No use to try to sweet talk me, Miss Garland. I knows you ever since I put the first pair of diapers on you.
Her performance in the epic Gone with the Wind earned her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, becoming the first black person to win an Oscar. Unfortunately for her, she wasn't properly celebrated for the achievement. The ceremony was held in 1940, and segregation was still very much a reprehensible part of American society. To account for this racist policy, the Academy placed McDaniel at a side table away from the white nominees.
This is one of the happiest moments of my life. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel. And may I say thank you and God bless you.
Her victory and speech that day gave some glimmer of hope for race relations in the United States, but the governing body ultimately failed to show her the respect she deserved. James Dean's Crash. Among the brightest stars of the 1950s, James Dean helped bring a new style of acting to Hollywood. His vulnerable parts in the likes of East of Eden and Rebel Without a Cause were landmarks for their decade.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
Dean had finished work on the movie Giant in 1955 when a car accident cut his life short. While driving his Porsche in Southern California, the actor crashed and died from his injuries. His youthful energy was only beginning to reveal itself to audiences. Having only been credited for 3 films, the performer stunned people with his dynamic presence and became an example for many future actors.
Everybody thought I had a duster? Y'all thought old Spindle Top Mo Burnett was all it was, didn't you? Well, I'm here to tell you it ain't, boy.
Tippi Hedren's mistreatment, The Birds.
Oh, hello, Miss Daniels.
Have you ever seen so many gulls? What do you suppose it is?
Well, there must be a storm at sea that can drive them inland, you know.
Tippi Hedren received the opportunity of a lifetime to work with director Alfred Hitchcock. She was cast in the lead role of The Birds, but her experience with the filmmaker was nothing short of horrible. He subjected the star to scenes that put her in harm's way, never seeming to care all that much about her safety. This included a sequence where actual birds hurt her. The performer's story is unfortunately not unique, mirroring Stanley Kubrick's poor treatment of Shelley Duvall while filming The Shining. Hitchcock harassed and threatened Hedren throughout their working relationship, which extended to another movie entitled Marnie.
You don't love me. I'm just something you've caught. You think I'm some kind of animal you've trapped.
She states that the whole collaboration almost ended her career for good, but she persevered and later returned to acting. Radioactive set, The Conqueror.
You do well, Kumlik. For while I have fingers to grasp a sword and eyes to see, your treacherous head is not safe on your shoulders, nor your daughter in her bed.
Of all the movies throughout his career, The Conqueror stands as one of the few that completely miscast John Wayne. He's completely out of place in his role as Genghis Khan, but the larger production had much more scientific problems to worry about. The production took place in Utah and was downwind of a nuclear testing site. There are several theories about the potential health hazards that come from shooting in such a location. Many people associated with the production died from cancer, including Wayne, co-star Agnes Moorehead, and director Dick Powell. Some feel that it was just a coincidence, but the significant portion of crew members affected by cancer keeps the theory alive.
You will take pleasure with the offspring of your father's slayer? She will bring woe to you, my son, and to your people.
Heath Ledger's passing, the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Can I ask you a question? Do you dream? Or should I say, can you put a price on your dreams?
Over the course of the 2000s, Heath Ledger performed in films that received rave reviews, such as Brokeback Mountain. The height of his acting powers arrived with his interpretation of the Joker character in The Dark Knight. Before that film was released, the actor started work on Terry Gilliam's fantasy film, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
What are you doing? Trying to save your daughter's life, sir. Hey? Oh, well, I figured I could be the fifth soul. See, I could take that risk, sir.
Ledger failed to finish working on the project after a fatal overdose, leaving behind an impressive body of work. His shocking death drew tributes from his contemporaries. The performer would even go on to be the second actor to posthumously win an Oscar.
Well, you look nervous. Is it the scars? You want to know how I got them?
Gilliam would alter his movie in order to showcase the final work of the talented star, casting other actors to finish production. Judy Garland's troubled career and death.
Over the rainbow, way up high.
A beloved Hollywood figure, Judy Garland began her professional life in the studio system. Her unforgettable performance in The Wizard of Oz and other musicals turned her into a superstar. The actor's early success didn't come without a cost, as she fell prey to abusive behavior behind the scenes. Garland was given pills at a young age to regulate her weight and to keep her alert for extended hours. Carrying over into her adult life, this drug intake turned into a dangerous dependency that also involved alcohol. The performer tried to keep singing and acting to varying degrees of success throughout the 1950s and 1960s. In 1969, the artist overdosed and was yet another fatality of the entertainment industry.
You won't forget me, will you? Promise you won't.
Manipulation behind the scenes. Last Tango in Paris.
You want to know why you don't want to know anything about me? Because you hate women.
Oh, really?
What they have ever done to you?
Upon its controversial release in 1972, Last Tango in Paris garnered mostly positive reviews for its lead performances by Marlon Brando and Maria Schneider. Both actors provided an abundance of vulnerability in their on-screen romance. For Schneider, certain moments felt all too real and even degrading.
You afraid?
No.
No? You're always afraid.
The infamous butter sequence was simulated for the movie, but the actress still mentioned feeling humiliated during the production. She blamed Brando and especially director Bernardo Bertolucci for mistreating her and not giving her more agency in regard to the most graphic scene. With this information in mind, the whole movie feels tainted by the filmmaker's deplorable decisions. The death of Helena Hutchins, Rust.
This morning, a stunning new look at the shock on the set of the movie Rust.
Were you in the room when someone was
holding the gun, yeah.
Filming an independent Western, Alec Baldwin was prepping for a shot involving a revolver. His gun went off and hit the cinematographer Helena Hutchins and director Joel Souza. Hutchins tragically died from the resulting injuries in what became a high-profile case of mismanagement on set.
How did a real bullet get on that set?
I have no idea. Someone put a live bullet in a gun. A bullet that wasn't even supposed to be on the property.
Some people blamed Baldwin for holding the gun, and others questioned the armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the person responsible for preparing all weapons for the production. Others focused on the fact that live rounds somehow ended up on the set at all. Rumors and accusations continue to swirl as of this writing, but the victims in this case should have never been harmed in the first place.
It's not my call right now to believe whether he goes to prison or not. Our focus is to get justice for Helena Hutchins and to let everybody know that just because you're an A-list actor, you're not going to be above the law.
Natalie Wood's Drowning, Brainstorm.
But you have to promise me that you'll never leave me again.
I'm not going anywhere.
Promise me.
Starting at an early age, Natalie Wood was a prominent actor in all sorts of classic films. She grew up on screen and eventually starred in movies such as West Side Story and Splendor in the Grass.
Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, glory in the flower, we will grieve not.
Wood later married fellow actor Robert Wagner and filmed the movie Brainstorm in the early 1980s. During a break in the production, she accompanied Wagner and her co-star Christopher Walken on a boat trip, which soon turned deadly. The actor then drowned under mysterious circumstances. People have their suspicions as to the ultimate cause of her death, but the bottom line remains that she died tragically and much too young at just 43.
Why does a case that is now really more than 36 years old matter?
Because somebody died, and no matter what, ultimately that's our job, to find the truth.
Brandon Lee's death, The Crow.
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Stop me if you heard this one.
On the set of the comic book adaptation The Crow, a tragic mistake killed the star. One scene required the use of a prop gun, which was not intended to fire anything other than a harmless dummy cartridge. The barrel was blocked by fragments of a previously fired blank and improperly inspected before being used. Practicing the proposed scene with a firearm, Brandon Lee was accidentally shot and killed by co-star Michael Massey. His death sparked renewed concerns about set safety standards that continue to this day. Members of the production, including Massey, were haunted by the incident, and the finished film was dedicated to Lee's memory.
What happened to Brandon was a tragic accident, and it's something that I'm gonna live with.
Helicopter crash. Twilight Zone, the movie. Decades after the Twilight Zone show was released, filmmakers came together to create a cinematic adaptation. This included an anthology format, with a new director helming each section of the movie. John Landis directed a story involving actor Vic Morrow, whose character finds himself in a disturbing trip through horrific episodes in history. One sequence involved the use of a helicopter and pyrotechnics.
I'm American! I'm American! I'm American!
Defying child labor laws, Landis and others allowed young actors to be on set for a night shoot that went horribly wrong. The helicopter crash resulted in the deaths of Morrow and 2 young performers. Landis and certain members of the production were tried and acquitted for their actions leading up to the tragedy. Blackface and racist stereotypes. In the earliest days of movie making, racist stereotypes were employed as a means of entertainment. This predates the medium and stretches back to the days of stage performances that used blackface in minstrel shows. With the invention of sound, white performers continued to play other races in a variety of roles. This both kept certain stereotypes alive, as well as taking away jobs from people of color. The use of makeup and other prosthetics allowed for white actors to pretend to be other races in poorly dated films. Everyone from Fred Astaire to Judy Garland can be seen in blackface during the early days of Hollywood, revealing the extensive history of racism in cinema history.
Well, you know, any form of history that gets suppressed or repressed or erased out, it comes back to haunt.
Hollywood Blacklist. In the years following World War II, America experienced a wave of anti-communist sentiment. Many proponents of the movement were worried about possible Soviet influence in the US film industry. This led to the creation of the House Un-American Activities Committee, which set out to find alleged communists and their sympathizers. The Hollywood blacklist resulted in a number of artists being unable to work for years. This was partially carried out through the testimony of many fellow film workers, some of whom named friends and colleagues in order to save their own careers.
Friends? What friends? Who the hell has the luxury of friends? I've got allies and enemies. There's no room for anything else.
The larger movement finally died down in the 1960s, but irrevocable damage had already been done to various people in Hollywood.
Are you proud of what happened in Hollywood at that time?
I think it was probably a very necessary thing at the time, because the radical liberals were going to take over our business.
The Birth of a Nation. Directed by D.W. Griffith, The Birth of a Nation sparked controversy upon its release in 1915. It's an adaptation of the book The Klansman, which takes a look at post-Civil War America with a heavy slant towards pro-Confederate bigotry. This includes graphic depictions of the Ku Klux Klan and their racist actions in the Reconstruction era of the United States. Any of Griffith's cinematic achievements were overshadowed by the main narrative's racism and promotion of the KKK. The project was also credited with influencing a resurgence of the terrorist group not long after the movie's release.
This film regenerized the Klan. The Klan was dormant, it was dead.
The Manson Murders.
I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business.
Cult leader Charles Manson assembled a cast of misfits and indoctrinated them with a twisted ideology. At the very end of the 1960s, members of his so-called family terrorized the Los Angeles area. This included the murders of actor Sharon Tate and others in especially brutal attacks. There's still some legal uncertainty surrounding Manson's ultimate connection to the crime. Popular belief suggests that it was under his orders to go to various houses and commit horrible acts. These gruesome events brought a dark close to the decade and traumatized many people associated with Tate.
And it continues to shock the conscience, both because of the brutality of the murders and because of this eerie cult-like control that Manson had over his followers.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
The Weinstein Revelations. At one time, one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, producer Harvey Weinstein's behavior finally caught up with him.
Who have you talked to?
We've sent you who we're covering, Harvey.
Who have you talked to?
A 2017 expose started a firestorm of revelations about the man's abuses of women in the industry. Many actors came forward to tell their story, and several of them cited similar tactics from the producer. Weinstein assaulted women, harassed many people, and threatened to ruin careers if any stories about him leaked. He's since been the subject of legal action and will possibly serve the remainder of his life behind bars.
Trial means so much to so many, but it will mean the most to the brave women testifying and to all of us silence breakers.
The surrounding discussion about his crimes and others like it partly inspired the rise of the #MeToo movement. Did we forget another terrible event from movie history? Let us know in the comments below.
Goodbye, Vietnam!
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.